Book 2 of the Black Cobra series, The Elusive Bride. September 2, 1822. Road from Pune to Bombay. The battle cries of their pursuers faded momentarily as Emily Ainsworth and her escort thundered around the next bend, gaze locked on the beaten surface of the dirt road. She concentrated on urging her mare even faster on fleeing down the mountain road as if her life depended on it. She suspected it did. They were halfway down the road from Pune, the moon-soon capital from the upper echelons of the British governing Bombay. Bombay itself was still hours of hard riding ahead, and then the usual serene beauty of the hills with their majestic firs and cool strip air was again fractured by the ululations of the riders pursuing them. Their pursuers were Black Cobra cultists, she heard from the grisly tales, and had no wish to feature in the next horrific installment. She and her escort, led by Captain McFarlane, held a flat gallop, yet somehow the cultists had closed the distance. She initially felt confident she and the troop could outrun them, but she was no longer sure. Captain McFarlane rode alongside her eyes locked on the sharply descending road. She sensed him glance back, then a moment later he glanced at her. She was about to snap that this was an accomplished rider, as he should by now have noticed, but he looked ahead and pointed. There! McFarlane waved at his lieutenant. Those 2 rocks on the next stretch. With 2 others, I can hold them back long enough for Miss Ainsworth and the rest of you to reach safety. I'll stay with you, the lieutenant shouted. The Missab Emily stared at the rocks in question, 2 tall, massive boulders. They framed the road with the sheer cliff on one side and an equally sheer drop on the other. She was no general, but while 3 men might delay their pursuers, they'd never hold them back. No! We all of us stay, or we all of us go. Miss Ainsworth, I have no time to argue. You'll go on with the bulk of the troop. Of course she argued, but he wouldn't listen. Here, drawing a folded parchment from inside his coat, he thrust it into her hand. Take this, get it to Colonel Derek Delborough. He's at the fort in Bombay. It's vital you place it in his hands, his and no others. Do you understand? She nodded. Colonel Delborough at the fort. Right. Now ride. Ride fast. Hurry up. Ride that horse. She had to ride on. He'd given her no choice. If she didn't reach Bombay and deliver this packet, his death, his sacrifice would be for naught. That couldn't be. She couldn't let that happen. But he'd been so young. Tears stung her eyes. Viciously she blinked them back. She had to concentrate on the forsaken road and ride. Later that day, Emily fixed the Sea Copy Guard fort gates with a steady gaze. Captain McFarlane, at the niece of the governor of Bombay, visiting her uncle for the last 6 months, she could ask and expect to be answered. The sea parched, blanched, olive and all, the glance he bent on her sorrowful and compassionate. I'm sorry, miss, the captain is dead. I wish to speak to Colonel Delborough. Where may I find him? The answer had been the officers' bar, the enclosed front veranda of the officers' mess. Emily wasn't sure it was acceptable for her, a female, to go inside, but that wasn't going to stop her. Indy, the Indian maid she borrowed from her uncle's house, so trailing behind her. She mounted the shallow steps, moving into the dim shadows of the veranda. She halted to let her eyes adjust. Of course, they all noticed her the instant she walked in. A serving boy quickly came in. Miss, I'm looking for Colonel Delborough. I was informed he was in here. Yes, miss. He swung and pointed toward the group in the corner. He's there with his men. Had McFarlane been one of Delborough's men? Emily thanked the boy and headed for the corner table. There were 4 large officers seated at the table. All 4 rose slowly as she approached. Remembering Iddy's dutiful dodging her heels, Emily paused and waved the maid to a chair by the veranda. Wait there. Drawing breath, head rising, Emily walked on. As she neared, she scanned not the men's faces. Even without looking, she knew their expressions were bleak. They'd learned of McFarland's fate, almost certainly knew the manner of it, something she was sure she didn't need to know. But instead, she searched each pair of broad shoulders for a colonel's epaulets. Distantly, she registered that, in common female parlance, these men would be termed impressive, with their broad chest, their height, and their rugged physical strength. Another captain, blonder than McFarlane, had two majors, one with light brown hair. She had to tug her gaze onto the other major, the one with the rakish dark hair. Then she finally found the colonel among them, presumably Delborough. He had dark hair. Colonel Delborough? The colonel inclined his dark eyes, searching her face. Ma'am, I'm Emily Emsworth, the governor's niece. If I could trouble you for a word in private, Colonel. Every man about his table is an old friend and colleague of James McFarland. We're all working together. If your business is with me, has anything to do with James, I would ask you speak before us all. Her eyes were weary and so sad. One glance at the others, at their rigid expression so contained, she nodded. Very well. There was an empty chair between the two majors. The brown-haired held it for her. Thank you. I realize it might be irregular, but if I could have a small glass of that. They're drinking the arrack. With a smile that went away, she accepted it and took a small sip. The sharp taste made her nose wrinkle, but her uncle had allowed her to partake of the liquor in experimental fashion. She knew of its fortifying properties. She took a larger sip and then continued. I asked at the gate, and they told me I'm very sorry that Captain McFarland didn't make it back. If you could tell us what happened from the beginning, it would help us understand. She told the story simply, without embellishment. When she reached the point where she parted from the gallant captain, she paused and drained her glass. I tried to argue, but he would have none of it. He drew me aside and gave me this. She lifted the packet, laying it on the table, pushed it toward Deborah. Captain McFarlane asked me to bring this to you. He turned back with a few men, and the rest came with me. When she fell silent, the distracting major on her left spoke. And you sent them back when you came within sight of the safety. You did the best you could. And you did the right thing. I don't know what's in that. I didn't look. But whatever it is, I hope it's worth it. Worth the sacrifice he made. I'll leave it in your hands, Colonel, as I promised Captain McFarlane I would. She pushed back from the table. They all rose. The brown-haired major drew back her chair. Allow me to organize an escort for you back to the governor's house. Thank you, Major. Who was he? Her nerves fluttered again. He was standing closer than before. She didn't think her lightheadedness was due to her attack. She's attracted to him. She's got the She noticed their uniforms, but now it struck her. She looked at the major. You're not regulars. No, we're Hastings' own. The Marquis of Hastings, the Governor General of India. This group and McFarlane had worked directly for him. I see, but she felt sure her uncle would be able to enlighten her. They emerged into the veranda steps. If you'll wait here for a moment. It wasn't really a question. She halted, and Indy beside her watched as the major raised a hand, attracting the attention of a sepoy sergeant drilling his troop on the maiden. The sergeant quickly presented herself with a few words. The major organized a group of sepoys to escort her back to the governor's residence in town. His innate yet understated air of command and the attention and the willingness, even eagerness of the sergeant to obey was impressive as his physical presence. Thank you, Major. Major Gareth Hamilton, Miss Ensworth. Releasing her, he looked at the well-ordered sepoys, nodded his approval, then turned again to her. Please be careful. Yes, of course. Her heart was thumping quickly. You could still feel the pressure of his fingers around hers. Drawing in a much-needed breath, she inclined her head. Good evening, Major. That had to be the each English mates he carried with them all his years of service. That had to be the reason he felt as if he'd just met his future. But it couldn't be her, couldn't be now. Duty called. Duty and memory of James McFarland. Turning, he climbed the steps and went back inside. 3rd September 1822. My room in the governor's residence, Bombay. Dear Diary, I have waited for so long and will admit that I had fallen into the habit of imagining it would never happen. That now it might have, I find myself rather cautious. Is this what my sisters meant when they said that I would simply know? Certainly my stomach and nerves proved to be singularly sensitive to Major Hamilton's nearness, as Esther, Maggie, and Hilary foretold. Is this an indicator? It is no help that Aunt Selina remains in Pune, too far away to provide advice, so all my information needs to come from my uncle, although Uncle Ralph does answer without thinking of the motives behind my questions, which is all good. Until I know more about Major Hamilton, I cannot know if I am starting to fervently hope he is the one, my one, the gentleman for me, so my most urgent urge is to learn more about him, from whom I need to spend more time with him, but how? I must devote myself to finding ways. I have only a few days. After all these years of waiting for him to appear and coming all this way before meeting him, sailing away and leaving my one just doesn't seem bare thinking. September 10, 1822, the governor's residence. Emily found the Indian houseboy standing in the patch of sunlight slanting across the rug in her aunt's parlor. He's leaving? Yes, miss. It is said he and his other friends have already resigned their commissions because they are so cast down by the friend of their captain. What the devil was Hamilton about? How could he be her one if he was so cowardly as to run home to England? What honor and avenging a friend, a comrade, and fellow officer killed in the most ghastly and gruesome manner? All of them, all four have resigned, and they're all heading back to England. That's what everyone says. I have spoken with someone who knows their servants. They're all excited about seeing England. They were up to something. She wondered what. She was due to board ship on the 18th of the month, sailing via Cape to Southampton. She needed to learn more about Hamilton, a lot more before she left. But first, I want you to concentrate on Major Hamilton. See what you can learn of his plans, not just from his household, but from the barracks and anywhere else he goes. Whatever you can do, don't get caught. You can count on Chandra, miss. Yes, I know. She caught him gaming, which forbidden in those on the governor's payroll, but on his learning need for rupees to pay for medicine for his mother and arranged for him to have money advanced from his pay and for his mother. He also worked in the governor's mansion to receive better care. But ever since Chandra had been her willing slave, he'd been quick, observant, and all but invisible in Bombay's busy streets. He proved extremely useful in following Hamilton and the other three. One thing, Hamilton has no other Anglo friends, just the officers. Yes, miss, they all came from Calcutta some months ago and have kept to themselves. 5 days later, he left? When? How? This morning, miss. He took the sloop to Aden. He did, and his servants? So I heard tell, miss. They're already gone when I got there. What am I supposed to do? He left. He left. Next day. Good evening, Uncle. Emily swept into the dining room and took her seat on her uncle's right. They were the only two at dinner. Her aunt was still in Pune, which was a very good thing. Flicking out her napkin, she smiled at her butler, waited for him to serve her, and then stepped back. I have an announcement of sorts to make. Oh, her uncle said. Don't worry, it's only a minor change in my plans. As you know, I was scheduled to depart on the company ship 2 days hence, but after speaking with others, I've decided that I came by that route. I should go home by the direct and more scenic one. See Egypt and pyramids as it is the diplomatic route. There's an unlikely to be any serious danger. Plenty of embassies and consulates are on the way to call for help. Your father won't like the idea, he says. I knew I could trust you to see my salient point. There's no reason I shouldn't go home that way. So she talks him in to letting her go home an indirect route so that she can accidentally run into the major and pursue him a little more directly. 17th September. Dear Diary, as usual, I will endeavor to record my thoughts at 5 o'clock every afternoon. I dressed for dinner this morning. I departed Bombay, and I understand we are making good time as Mary Alice slices way through the waves to Aden. She's going to Aden to interfere with McFarlane. Uh, a week later. Dear Diary, the answer to my last question is quite amazing fast when sail is risked. My being extra charming to the captain and challenging him to demonstrate how fast his ship can go has paid a handsome dividend. We passed the Egret, the sloop carrying the major and his household, sometime last night. With luck, we'll be debarking at the same place at the same time. She's catching up to him. What? Gareth stood in the bow of the Egret and stared incredulously at the pale pink parasol bobbing through the crowd on the wharf alongside. They'd followed another of the company sloops into the harbor and had to wait for the vessel, the Mary Alice, to be unloaded first. His bags, along with the minimal luggage carried by his small bitty fishing household, his Batman Bister, his houseman McToot, his ex-sepoy, and McToot's wife Arnia, were being stacked this very minute on the wooden wharf, but that wouldn't cause of the consternation, to put mildly, that had seized him. He noticed the parasol bobbing toward the gangway of the Mary Alice, tied up at the end of the long wharf. He watched the bearer, a lady in matching pink skirts, tack and weave through the crowd, she and her contingent of staff following at her heels, with one heavily muscled man clearing a path through the noisy, jostling crowd. As a face that for weeks had haunted his dreams, yet all but immediately the damn parasol had come up and reescorted his view. Damn, he recognizes her. That's a good thing, right? He sees her coming through the crowd. He knows that face. He's like, oh no, that couldn't be. Oh no, that couldn't be her. How could she be here? Are you all right? As the warmth, the heat of his hands fell from her, Emily managed to blink. Yes, this must be what shock felt like. Indeed, she was amazed she hadn't swooned. He seized her, dragged her from the danger that held her close, effectively plastered to the side of his body. Someone had tried to kill them. She didn't think she'd ever be the same. Hamilton is in people, a Batman in mid-20s, with experience etched in his face, a Pierce Putman warrior, and his quality fierce wife escorted her party off the docks. Then, with their combined luggage in a wooden cart, continued through the streets of Aden to the edge of the diplomatic corner, and the quietly fashionable hotel her uncle had recommended. Hamilton halted in the street outside, studied the buildings, then simply said no. He glanced at her. You can't stay here. There are too many entrances. You're right. Death trap it is, in the circumstances. Before she could argue, Hamilton smoothly continued. For the moment at least, I'm afraid all parties will need to stay together. Yes! Yes, they have to stay together. That's exactly what she wants. She wants to stay together. So she starts when they get a moment in private. The accommodations are quite adequate, thank you. They're not what she was accustomed to, but they were clean and comfortable enough. They would do. However, I have a number of questions, Major, that I hope you'll be able to answer. I only caught the briefest glimpse of my attacker, but I saw enough to know that he was a Black Cobra cultist. So, she's in it. What is in the packet the Black Cobra wants so desperately? As he thought, far too quick-witted, he'd hoped to gloss over his mission, conceal the major aspects, but her muscle gaze was too acute, too intent, too... Now tell me the truth. Tell me what I want to know. 5 of us, Delbro, me, Logan Monteith, Captains Rafe Carstairs, and James McFarlane, were sent to Bombay by Governor General Hastings with the specific orders to do whatever needed to bring the Black Cobra to justice. That was in March. Within a few months, we identified the Black Cobra, but the evidence was circumstantial, and given our suspect, our case needed to be beyond question. Who is the Black Cobra? The Black Cobra is Roderick Farrar. Farrar? Great heavens, I've met him, of course. What did you think of him? He's not a nice man. We kept searching. Then, while James was at the Puna fetching you, He stumbled on a letter from the Black Cobra to one of his precincts. We found similar missives, but this one was different. It was signed by the Black Cobra, but sealed with the Farah's personal ring, the ring seal he wears on his little finger and can't take off. Once you brought that letter to us, we had what we needed. We already consulted others back in England. We knew what we had to do. We have to get that letter, the original to Duke of Wolverstone in England. Farrar, of course, will do everything in his considerable power to stop us. Our instructions for Wolverstone, he's the key planner in this, were to make 4 copies and each bring one home, all traveling by widely different routes, to make it harder for the Cobra to stop you. With James gone, there are 4 of us now, all on our way back to England. Only one of us has the original, but the Cobra doesn't know which one, so he has to try to intercept each of us. I suspect you're carrying one of the copies, a decoy as it was. How? On the wharf, you and your men wanted to chase the cultists. If you'd been carrying the original, you wouldn't have risked engaging directly. You would defend, not attack. You do all you could not to draw attention to yourself. Yes, well, from here on, we'll be running. My orders are explicit. I am to do all I can to distract the cultists between here and the channel, to do all I can to make them chase me, to make the Cobra throw as many of his men at me. Without making it obvious you're carrying a copy and not the original. You're not carrying the letter on you. No, he couldn't see reason to tell her. It's in one of the wooden crates soldiers the Indians carry to use ferry documents. I see. Arnie is carrying it. It can't be that obvious. That's who I'd leave with. She's a warrior tribe and quite dangerous. I imagine yet to the cultists she'll be also invisible. They'll never think of her. Watson mentioned you decided to return home by the overland route and that you hope to see the pyramids and the other sights along the way. It seemed sensible to see more of the world than I can, and I was already in Bombay. She did this all to find your butt. That's right. She did it all to find your butt. And she wants to go home with you. If I were Friar in the position he's in now, that's what I'd do. He has men to spare, which, of course, is the principal aim of my mission, reducing his forces. So you agree that it's best to go on together, to combine our parties' interests together. Yes! Let's carry on together. Do they make it home together? What happens on their trip? Who accosts them? What Black Cobra people do they run into? Do they fall in love? Will they make it back to England? Do we know? Please check out Book 1, The Elusive Bride we read last week. This is Book 2. Right. What am I saying? The Untamed Bride. Sorry. This is the Elusive Bride. I don't know how elusive she is if she's chasing him all over town. And Book 3, The Brazen Bride. And Book 4, The Reckless Bride. And at the end of all of this, we'll do we're doing each groups. We have one more big group to do, the Buccaneers after this. Then I'm gonna do a rundown of all the series, the separate series in their clutches, and then we're gonna go through it sequentially. So you can either read it in the little groups like I'm doing, or you can read it sequentially. I think it's easier to follow the storyline if you're reading them in the short series as she wrote them. But there are some people that would like to do it sequentially, so we'll run through that too. I don't have all of the Barnaby Adaires and the Gooseling things, but we'll go through it and see what happens. And if you could please hit the like and subscribe, I'd much appreciative. Have a good one!